It was a night of wine, women, and pride, a night filled with laughter, music, and blasphemy. But before the sun would rise, the greatest empire on earth would fall, and the king would lie dead. This is the story of Belshazzar, the last king of Babylon, and how pride and lust brought sudden destruction. The Bible opens Daniel chapter 5 with a scene of dangerous confidence. Babylon is under siege by the Medes and Persians, yet King Belshazzar throws a massive feast for 1,000 of his lords. Daniel chapter 5 verse 1 and 2 says, Belshazzar made a great feast and commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple in Jerusalem. These sacred vessels were meant for the worship of the Most High God, but Belshazzar used them to toast his idols. He mocked the God of heaven while indulging in lust, pride, and drunkenness. In the very night of his last opportunity to repent, Belshazzar made a feast for 1,000 of his lords. He reveled in pleasure, praising the gods of gold and silver and defying the king of the universe. Belshazzar's heart was sullen with arrogance. He believed Babylon was untouchable, its walls too high, its gates too strong, its river defenses too deep. He was so blinded by pride and self-confidence that danger seemed far away. He invited his wives and concubines to drink with the nobles, a clear sign of moral corruption. The king's court had become a house of sin. Daniel chapter 5 verse 4 says, They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver and of brass and of iron and of wood and of stone. Little did Belshazzar think that there was a heavenly witness to his daring blasphemy. Suddenly, in the middle of the celebration, a hand appeared writing words of judgment on the palace wall. The music stopped, fear filled the hall, the king turned pale, his knees knocked together. Daniel chapter 5 verse 5 and 6 says, In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and the king's countenance was changed. All in that feast hall stood shaking as if they were standing before the very judgment seat of Christ. Not even Babylon's wisest men could read the message. But Daniel, now an old man, was called in. Daniel chapter 5 verse 22 to 23 says, You have not humbled your heart. You have lifted up yourself against the Lord of heaven, and the God in whose hand your breath is, and whose are all your ways you have not glorified. In that last night of mad folly, Belshazzar had filled up the measure of his guilt, and the irrevocable sentence was pronounced. The writing was interpreted by Daniel himself. In Daniel chapter 5 verse 25 to 28, we read these words which were written on the wall. Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. Mene means God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel means you are weighed in the balances and found wanting. Upharsin means your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. While Belshazzar parted, the Medes diverted the Euphrates River, marched under the city walls, and took Babylon without a battle. In Daniel chapter 5 verse 30 we read, In that night was Belshazzar the king of the Chaldeans slain. Great Babylon fell in one night. In the midst of his revelry, Belshazzar was slain, and an alien monarch sat upon the throne. What lessons can we get from this story? You see, Belshazzar's story is not just ancient history. It's a divine warning to every soul who lives carelessly, who mocks sacred things, and who lets pride and pleasure dull his conscience. Many people today live as if there is no God in heaven. God is not excusing us any more than he excused Babylon, which perished because of sin. There's a limit beyond which God shall no longer delay to bring his judgment. Let all who claim to be Christ followers search their hearts diligently. The writing is still on the wall of all who reject the Most High. God will not be mocked, but there is hope for the humble, for those who turn from pride and seek God who holds their breath in his hand. If this message spoke to your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Let us strive to live soberly, humbly, and in honor of the King of Kings. Have a good one.